Hey guys, it's Pastor Chris, and this is your Discipleship Minute. This week we're going to start a new topic in the Discipleship Minute. We're going to talk about generosity. And I know that as soon as I say generosity, being an administrative guy, almost everybody wants to turn off their phones, their radios, turn off this video. But I want to encourage you not to do something, because I'm going to do something a little bit controversial here in a second. I'm going to say something crazy that maybe makes a lot of Baptists cringe. All right, you ready for it? One of the worst things, or one of the most difficult or unintentionally negative things that the church has done over the years about generosity, get this, I'm the administrative financial guy, is talk about the tithe. Crazy, right? I can't believe that Pastor Chris just said that one of the worst things, or one of the most unintentionally negative things that churches have done is talk about the tithe. Let me explain. God is a generous God. That's where we should always start when we talk about generosity. And often we skip to the tithe. Now, let me clarify. The tithe is a biblical concept, so we should biblically talk about tithe. But here's how people respond to a 10% giving, if you would. If we are giving 10%, we think, oh, well, I've met my tithe, I'm good, or I've met my minimum obligation in God's eyes, and I feel like I am right with God. Or then there's some who don't. They look at their finances and they can't, and they just feel like they are falling short, or they are somehow unequal, or they somehow are just unworthy of God's love. Those things are not what we want to teach whenever we talk about generosity, because we want to look at God's generosity towards us first, then to look at how we respond with our generosity. See, God literally bankrupted heaven by sending his son, Jesus Christ, to earth to die and take the punishment that we deserve in order that we may once have again have a right relationship with him. And then what he does with our generosity is well beyond our imagination. We see the widow and the widow's mite, and how she gives just a couple small tokens, and how Jesus teaches how the most was done with those funds, or the most generosity comes from her. We forget whenever we start thinking about a 10% tithe that we could give a small portion of what God has entrusted us with, because that's all we have available to us, and God can do incredible things with that. Think about the fish and the loaves. There's no limit on what God can do with our generosity. But often when we teach about the tithe, what happens is people think, well, I can't give 10%, so I'm just going to do nothing, and we don't grow in our generosity. But also, whenever we teach it, it caps generosity. Remember, everything that we have belongs to God. If we meet 10%, which we teach and we biblically should teach, that doesn't mean we stop there. That just means that this is a place that God has allowed us in order to build his kingdom through the gifts that he has provided us. And God teaches us very specifically in Scripture that it's the heart of our generosity that matters. That the more we give, that he's going to use that in a way that's going to build his kingdom. So as we go throughout this week, what I want you to remember is throw out what normally gets talked about in generosity whenever we talk about the tithe. Because we're going to talk about our gifts, we're going to talk about our finances, but most importantly, we're going to talk about responding to a God who is more generous than we could even imagine. I'm Pastor Chris, and this is your Discipleship Minute.